How can you be fair in unequal partnerships? Now, this is an issue that comes up in a couple different ways. Sometimes we have the classic money and brains problem. We have somebody who has the money to fund the business, and somebody has the brains or the time or the energy to run the business, and you need to balance those interests. The other time we see this is sometimes we have people participating in different percentages. Maybe somebody is a 60% owner of the business, but the other owners that own the remaining 40% don't want that 60% owner to be completely unchecked. And so this is where your corporate documents, particularly a shareholders agreement, may come into play, or in the case of an LLC, your LLC agreement might come into play. I, as a practitioner, would typically include these types of control provisions within the operating agreement. I have seen some practitioners that mirror corporate practice and they actually create like a shareholders agreement or a separate agreement. So in some way, shape, or form, what you want to do is have an agreement among the various owners about how things are going to happen. What might you see in that agreement? Well, you might see checks and balances, limitations on powers. Because generally, the manager or the officer of the corporation has broad powers to do things for the entity. But you would want to put checks on that. You would want to limit that. Perhaps large expenditures, strategic partnerships, longer term relationships. All these might be the types of things where you're going to require the person running the business to get the consent of the other person. The other thing you need to think about is unusual situations. Let's go back to that money and brains situation where we have one person putting in the money, the other person putting in the expertise or the time. You need to think about what happens in good years and bad years and how the money will be divided. Does that investor still get a return on their investment? Do they get paid interest or quasi interest on that money that they put into the business, even if the business has a bad year? What about the person who's putting their time and energy in there? Do they get a salary? Do they get a draw? Do they get paid if the business has a bad year? Or do we just look at the profit sharing formulas and say, you may have worked for the business all year, economic conditions weren't good, you get a zero salary? Obviously, for a lot of people, getting a zero payment for a year's work for a business could be problematic because they can't meet their personal financial obligations. These are the types of things you need to what if and work through. What I recommend is you sit down with an experienced business law attorney and talk about these scenarios and work through your particular situation, figure out how it fits together, figure out what the appropriate documents that you need are, and then start working on drafting those documents, putting them together, and then building that financial base and those documents that are going to allow your business to do what you want to do. Do you have questions about business and business law? Feel free to join me in the comments, but don't put anything confidential in there. YouTube comments are not confidential. They will not be protected from privacy reasons, so you don't want to put anything sensitive in there. But if you have general questions, potential future video topics, would love to read about them. We have a whole library of past videos here on the channel, so I recommend you go check them out. And make sure you subscribe to the channel for future updates. I'll see you again very soon.